6.4 million African Americans are single parent homes for African Americans. And that number has gone down dramatically in 2017, 2018, going all the way down to like 6.1, you know, and that's a huge difference when you're talking about millions. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you guys. Just kind of explain to me what, you know, a little bit of an intro as far as what Black fatherhood means to you.
You want to go first, Mr. Ratliff?
I'm fine with that. For myself, you know, Black fatherhood is the essence of society. It's where we, as young as well as older Black fathers, we take all our knowledge, we take all of the wisdom we've gained over the years as young fathers and becoming, you know, older fathers to teach the next generation. And you know, these are times where Black fatherhoods are needed more now than ever before, not just from a legal standpoint, but also a social economic standpoint, an emotional standpoint, and a psychological standpoint. The data shows that over 60% of African American males grow up without a father role model in their home. And when you think about the principal societal problems affecting African American males, it is the growing absence of fathers from their lives, as it contributes to so many other with everything, with the George Floyd murder and all the other African American males who have lost their lives to violence for white police officers, and some was sprinkled in black on black crimes. This is a pivotal moment in our society, this 2020 election also, because it shows the aptitude of how high we'll go in terms of the role of the Black father and our contribution, not just to our household, but to society.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Me, you know, I just turned 27. You know, my son is 4, Naeem Elijah is 4, so a lot of the things that, you know, I wanted to instill in him, I had to look into, you know, what my father instilled in me. And right now I feel it's very pivotal, considering the fact a lot of the, you know, Black males my age right now are fathers and husbands. So just being able to provide for our child is one thing, but with everything going on from the George Floyd to all the protests because we want justice for all the wrongdoings, right. You know, it's pretty important that we, you know, get involved in our kids' lives, especially in the communities. With me being, you know, a African American teacher now, I want these kids to know, hey, somebody actually made it that looks like you. Because I grew up with a lot of female, you know, African American female teachers, but I didn't really have too many black male teachers.
Yep, exactly.
So I wanted to lead by example with that. So just being able, you know, to provide that example, not just for my son, but for other kids as well, you know, I feel like it's very pivotal.
Yeah, and I'm considering myself new to the game because I brought you guys on here because you guys are experienced, and even myself being considered a bit inexperienced as far as the fatherhood, even though my daughter is 2.5 years old right now. But I still recognize, even at a young age, and and with my older counterparts, that this conversation is something that not only does it need to be had, and it's pivotal right now in the changing times, but it's this conversation that hasn't been had enough, and that's kind of where the pressing need for us to have these conversations come from, and I'm excited to have them. Now, I like to talk about experiences because I feel like experience is the best teacher. Jamani, you not that you were really a young teacher, but your son was on the way pretty much on the tail end of when you was coming out of college. So,
look, I found out that my wife was pregnant with my son while I was studying for a senior exam. So, talk about pressure cooker.
Yeah.
I actually had my baby shower, if you remember, during the school year. Like, I planned it all while preparing to take my finals.
Right.
It's, you know, it definitely lit a fire under me, especially when it came to responsibility in life after college. Like, you always wondered, but, you know, once you found out. Once I found out that he was on the way, I felt that it was pivotal for me to completely turn that college lifestyle into fatherhood, because the last thing I wanted to do is be a statistic. Like, I'm pretty sure you probably remember a lot of people saw me walking around hood with a bassinet, from Walmart. Like, I was not playing about, the experience, because it was just something not only I had to welcome, but mentally prepare myself. Like, I can tell you right now, I tried to prepare myself, but there was no way to actually prepare myself to see my son be born. Right. But it was a blessing, and just being able, to say I have a son is a blessing itself, because not too many people have that opportunity. Right. It's a lot of dads, but it ain't too many fathers. Exactly. And, that's just something I take pride in. Yeah. But I became a father at 22, 23. Yep. Mm-hmm. It's young, but I'm here, he's here. It's all love, and the boy he's everything. Like, it's hard to discipline the you out of him. Yeah. Because he's so much of
so much like you.
But yeah, it's definitely worth it, man. And like I said, I was young, but like I said, at the same time, fresh out of college, I'm going from full-time student to full-time father. Right. It's no time to, fall behind on and lollygag. Like, life really happened. Right. Like 3 weeks after.
Yep. How about you, Dad? Give us a little bit of and this might be a little weird because you're my dad, but go ahead and give us a few words about your experience as a father over the years.
Well, I tell you, when your older sister Jasmine was born, I was young. I was 23 years old. Fortunately, I had a really good career in wrestling, so I didn't have to worry too much about college tuition because I had a full ride. So it enabled me the opportunity to graduate at 21. So from there, moving to Seattle from Illinois, and starting my adulthood journey was very exciting but scary. And so when me and your mom, had Jasmine, your mom had Jasmine, it was the happiest moment of my life during that time, and it changed who I was, not entirely, because I was very fortunate to grow up with two parents with family values, so I had a foundation. But I tried to instill that in Jasmine, and then when you came shortly thereafter, 3 years later, I was a little more seasoned as far as being a dad for 3 years, and just trying to instill family values into you and your older sister, and the do's and don'ts of life, and trying to instill those values into you at a young age, like teaching you how to count money. Who says that you have to be an adult when you start managing money? So just teach you how to manage your finances. That was important. Knowing when to talk to strangers at the appropriate time, and just making solid decisions. So trying to lead by example was something else that I've always tried to do with you and your sister, and as well as the other children in my life. Just leading by example, because certainly I can't tell you everything. There are moments where you will see how I behave as your dad, and you say, okay, I see what Dad is doing in this situation, and so this is what I would like to follow when I become a dad. Right. So, you and Jasmine, Sean and Isaiah, Micah, Michaela, Maya, I'm proud of every one of you, because it's all about leading by example. Everything starts at home. Everything. Right. So if I'm doing my job at home, then my worries are minimal when you become an adult and a father like you are now. So you do an excellent job with your daughter, and I think it has something to do with that in terms of how you were raised, taking care of your daughter. Right. So that's important to me, because everything starts at home. Everything.
And I just want to highlight now, as you know what I'm saying, I'm looking at not just me but the rest of my siblings as well, and this should be noted. You've taken care of a total of 6 children, and even right now in your household, you've got 2 daughters that are on their way that are going through universities, one that's going to a university, and another one that is well on her way, good grades, and flying through athletics, obviously pulling attention even as a sophomore, and then you've got me, a son that's gone through college, that's got a lot of years of college experience and settling nicely into a career, you know what I'm saying? And then you've got another successful daughter and another son who is on his way now to another university on football scholarships and basketball scholarships, and then even a younger son who, even though he's young right now, flying through all of his classes very well. So to me, that's still a highlight career as a father. And that is, fathers should pay attention, especially black fathers should pay attention to that. Is that, what I'm saying, two of the things that plagued us was one, involvement, and two, education, and it seems like that was something that was, it seemed like as soon as young black kids got to be in high school or something, they wanted us to go military, or if life hadn't already gotten a hold of us, we kind of found ourselves drifting in some job that kept us somewhere. It's hard for us to teach elevation, especially if we're not experiencing it. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Well, that's important. You raised a good point, and thank you for the shout out for your siblings, my children. At the end of the day, it's all about your investment of time in your children. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about 64% of young black males who were raised in single parent households, that means, if my math serves correctly, 36% of those who were raised in two parent households. But there's an opportunity for that 64% to improve. And you put the numbers out there in the last couple of years or so, the pendulum is starting to swing in a positive direction in terms of, involvement for male fathers. But, again, it's all about investment in time. When you grow up and you become a father, all those childish ways should be gone. They should be thrown away. Your focus is now on family. It's not just yourself. And so systemically, we have a challenge with rising up to that expectation. There's plenty of opportunity to do that, but it does start at home. Everything that you and your siblings are accomplishing, certainly, I'm proud to say I have something to do with it, but my faith is in God, and I pray for you guys every single day to protect you and to provide for you, to keep you safe, and to make sure, that you reach your fullest potential academically first and athletically second. So, if you don't have the grades, you can't compete. Right. So, therefore, your academics is most important. It's more important than athletics, because your athletic career is going to end one day. Right. So, what is your background? So, what is your portfolio? What's your past performance portfolio? Did you graduate? Did you have aspirations to do well? So, I'm not as impressed with you having a state championship and All-American awards. I'm not as impressed with that as I am with saying, yes, you have completed the task as an academic. Yeah,
exactly. Now I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. And this is where I'm gonna ask you guys, kind of open up just a little bit. Obviously, keep it comfortable. Right. Now I want to know, and I'll kind of lead on this just so you guys know how it goes. I want to know more about the experience, the adjustment. Now although all three of us are fathers, I consider us, the three of us, different. Just from the circumstances of when we first came in. For example, now, Dad, you can expand on that, because I didn't know you, obviously, when you first became a father. So I would like for you to expand on the adjustments that you made. But from what you just said, and like what I already know about you, you were pretty established by the time your first kid came around. That may have been a little bit different, Jamani. Now, I knew you before you even were pregnant, because obviously we was hanging out when I was a freshman. Yeah. And you kind of always had that big brother role. So when I found out you were going to be a dad, I was like, that just kind of makes sense. But at the same time, timing-wise, like you said, you coming in on the tail end of your senior year of college, the most important time.
Most important. Right. Yes.
And for me, it's a little bit different, because I've already had my 5 years of college experience. Hadn't graduated yet, but at the same time was still kind of going through that process, still a little bit inexperienced before the fatherhood came in. Right. I'll kind of spearhead it. Adjustments for me, and it was a a lot tougher for me mentally to be ready for a father than it pretty much was anywhere else. Because I take a lot of philosophy. I take philosophy and critical thinking very seriously. So for me, the most important thing for fatherhood is how many flaws of mine can I limit before I start fully embracing that leadership role. Yeah. Now, I learned after becoming a father, those things come naturally. You're gonna naturally grow. Your kid is going to force you to grow. Yes. Your kid is gonna challenge you every day, embrace you every day, trust you every day, love you every day, and drive you crazy every day, all at the same time. So for me, that was kind of the biggest adjustment. When I first found out that I was gonna be a father, I became obsessed with, I need to work as much as I can so we're set money-wise. I need to make sure that we are in the best situation. I need to make sure that I work on myself. I need to make sure that what I kind of had to learn adjusting to that is you might be putting more pressure on yourself by trying to do that. Constantly work out on your mind and your wallet and stuff like that instead of just naturally embracing the role. Yeah. So that probably was the biggest adjustment for me. Talk a little bit about what your biggest adjustment were.
My biggest adjustment, like I said, my son, I found out literally while studying for a senior exam. So like when I say like the pressure cooker really exploded, like that was probably the biggest news I was ever gonna get in college. Right. I was nervous, because if you knew me in college, you knew I'm not gonna say the life of the party, but I was always doing something. I was very social, so just being in the situation I was in regarding, the tail end of my college experience, it was something that I had to mentally adjust to in regards to how I went about things. Right. Like, I take pride in privacy, but at the same time, me being as social as I was, the limited circle that I had, I knew who to let in, knew what not to let out, you feel me? So a lot of adjusting I did was more so the circle, basically that family circle around my son, because it's a lot of people that you can say, hey, this is family, but like, hey, this is like family. this is family right here. Like, they watch, your father. Like, I look forward to having those conversations around, those college friends and the cousins that watch me grow into the man that I am right now. So, and I definitely commend you for that with the working, because I literally, the minute I found out that my son was on the way, I hit the ground running with working. So by the time he came into the world, I wasn't like, I didn't have the job I wanted, but I had a job to take care of my son. Right. And, handle things in the meantime.
That makes things different.
It makes things a lot different. Now, with my son being 4, now my mind state completely changed from when he was a couple months. Right. And
settled a little bit.
I settled a little bit, but I panicked a little bit more because, as you said, your kids' mannerisms change with you, and they adjust. Right. They adjust and force you to, think a different way, but elevate at the same time. Yeah. I love that he misses me, but it kills me to watch him cry because I'm leaving. Yeah, but I'm working for it. Like, he don't understand right now that I'm working for him to better his future. But at the end of the day, like, I just know me and my son have that bond. Right. So just the whole mental aspect of being a father, from being, I was never a bachelor in college, but, just being responsible for myself. Right. Like, I have somebody, no matter what happens in life, that's going to be my baby. Right. And I have to make sure everything that comes this way, I can't protect them from the world. Right. But it's my job to prepare them for it.
Prepare them. Yep, exactly.
And especially, being black in today's society, like, that's the biggest fear of something happening. So preparing myself to prepare him for his future is literally where my mind state is right now.
Exactly. How about you, Dad? Adjustments that you had over the course of when you first became a dad and to now?
Night and day.
You got some years on it, so
yeah, I thought I had things figured out when when Jasmine was born, my first child. But when she came into this world, man, it was like reality slapped me in the face. reality said, doesn't matter how much education you have, doesn't matter how smart you think you are, doesn't matter how your I's are dotted or your T's are crossed. This here, baby, this is a whole different battle altogether.
Right.
She didn't come with a manual, a baby manual, or how to raise her.
Nope.
It was like, good luck. So, there was definitely some growing pains as a father. Just echoing the word that your other panelist said, just adapting to being a father. You're no longer that guy can just go kick it, whenever you want.
No, not at all.
Responsibilities, Jack. You got to be home from work by a certain time.
Right.
And
can't even work when you want to work.
That's right. It's no longer about you. It's about that baby. It's all about Jasmine, Kayla Ratliff.
Right.
And, filling her needs. Does she have enough diapers? Is mommy getting enough rest? Because you want mommy to get some rest too.
Yeah, right.
If mommy don't get no rest, it's a problem for everyone.
That's right. So, you can't go play basketball like you want to.
Yeah.
You can't go running. I'm an avid runner, so you can't do all that. Just a side note, when I was training for the Olympics for the 96 Olympic trials, I had to pause because now I had a baby, so that was more important. So I had to pause that training. So, it became you train when you were, had time to train, not when you want to train.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it was all about time management. When Isaiah was born, I had things way more figured out now than I did then. So, we're talking about a 16-year difference in terms of years. Yeah. So, all those years of me being a parent with you and Sean and Jasmine, it gave me a ton of experience. The do's and don'ts of fatherhood, Right. So, should I spank him for accidentally tipping over the iced tea cup on the carpet, or just is that a teaching moment,
right?
Because I grew up with old school parents,
right.
Came from the South,
right?
And if you did something wrong, they tapped that butt with a belt or switch, So I was like, I learned not to do that in most instances, and just learn to talk because that is a learning opportunity. Yeah. So I had to get that old school mentality flushed out of me in situations where it wasn't warranted.
Right.
So there was a lot of learning opportunities for me between the time Jasmine was born and, by the time Isaiah was born. So I've learned a lot over my years as a father, and, have an opportunity to learn from my mistakes has been, very rewarding and fulfilling. Like you and I, we could go running right now, right. Because I know the importance of, again, leading by example. Because I work out, I could work out with you, or I could play basketball with you, or whatever, because I can do it physically, and also have conversations as father and son, right? About life in general, growing pains, what you're going through, whatever the case may be. I can offer advice because I've been through it, right? So it's just taking those experiences and passing that knowledge on. So leaving an inheritance for somebody is not just financial, right? It's also knowledge.
That's a great point.
That's just as important as passing on money when I move on and pass away.
And you brought up a great point when you said that you can't do all the things you want. That's kind of something that all three of us can kind of agree on, is that but back in the day, if we needed money, we can go work 48 hours straight if we wanted to make sure our pockets was full. But when you have a kid, it's essentially not money wise, but time wise, is cutting your income by like 40%. You can no longer just wake up and say, let me work when I want. You got to work when you can, right, and still be able to work when you can and have enough time to provide. And that's
let me just offer this also, Jeremiah, if I may.
Yeah.
As an African American father, and just as an African American, there are so many opportunities that we could take advantage of for, like, being a small business owner. Right. Or engage in opening a nonprofit. One of the reasons why I started Eternal Light Community Services when I moved back to Chicago from here in the DC area was because there was an opportunity to reach out to that population, African American males, those who were formerly incarcerated trying to get back on the right track. Those who are trying to reestablish a relationship with their children, but perhaps the courts has, during this time, we're talking about the mid-90s, the courts were so hell-bent on preventing fathers from seeing their children based on lies that was told to the judges about the fathers. And so I wanted to change that narrative.
Right.
It was a necessity to change that narrative because I went through that. And I said, I don't want another black father to go through what I went through just to fight to see their child.
Right.
It's not visitation. It's co-parenting. Visitation is a term that was made up by the legal system. A father is not a visitor of their child.
Right.
They are a parent to their child.
Yes.
So therefore, you are equal rights of your parent. The law may say one thing, but the reality is, without the father, the child would not exist.
Right.
So you don't pick and choose when you want your father. You want your ex to be the father of your child.
Right.
So Start Eternal Light was an opportunity to think outside the box, implement policies that will make it fair for the father, so when he goes to court, he'll have fair representation and a fair opportunity to get custodial rights or joint custody or whatever the case will be, but the voice will be heard.
Right.
So that's what we've been doing since 1997. And with the Father Rights Initiative in Chicago and here now in the DC area and Charlotte and Nashville, we are expanding our territory to reach out to dads who may not have had an opportunity to, spend time with their children. And that's important in terms of lifting each other up.
And I wanna piggyback off of that. We've got our statistics here, we've got our numbers here. And like you said, your data has been going, your work has been going back since 1997, even before then. And the Census Bureau has given us information, says, 2016, 73.7 million American children. Out of that, 69% live in two-parent households. That's down 88% since 1960. However, of the percentage of white children to black children that live in two-parent household is almost double. And to me, that's striking. To me, that's a very significant. The ratio of white children and black children since 1960 to 2016 now that live with their two-parent household is almost double. And to me, that says a lot. But what they don't tell you is the factors behind it, why the data is skewed. And what I found in my research was that when they count a two-parent household, they count married households. They count, they count the homes of black children that were born to a mother and father that are married. That's not always the case.
Right.
And what they're saying is, what skews the data a lot is the fact that a lot of black children growing up, their parents may be together but not be married. They might be living together. And then on the other side of that, on top of parents that may not be together, so which is me saying just don't always believe the data, is that the incarceration rates for African Americans is completely different. It's completely overrepresented, represented. You know what I'm saying? I was also reading in my research, and they was talking about how African Americans only make up like 6% of the total population, but they make up like 38% of the jails. You know, and that's important. It's completely misleading when they say that the stereotype is black fathers aren't in the home. That's not always true. Black fathers may be in the home but not married to the mother. That skews the data. Or you have black fathers that were taken away from their families. Right. That skews the data.
It's a lot that goes with the whole that I'm always with don't always believe the data, because it's so much that goes on that's not actually recorded. Like the comparison of the parents, like the black children with both parents in the house but not married. There's common law marriage, and not even a lot of people could even consider that. Like my grandmother and my grandfather been together for almost 17 years and they're not married, but common law, they're married.
They're married to the world.
Yeah, they're married to the world because they've been together that long.
Right.
So
when you present yourself to the world, they consider you married on like paperwork and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just that idea that the black child has, like, the data must be represented by this specific thing is gonna make that data skewed regardless, because they're already going in with, you know, specific limitations for that black child compared to the white child.
Yeah.
Now, let's keep it a buck. I've seen a lot of single white mothers. You feel me? So the data can be represented in both certain ways. Situations, but it's always both ways. It's always
and that's
two
why
sides
they call
to
it a
coin.
Controlled sample.
That's exact. I was literally about to say that. Like, you can control the data you want to put out. Like, if we have our own data, like, this is what it is, this is what we know, things would be different. But I know right now it's pivotal that we change that, and I'm glad you have this podcast and this is your first episode talking about, you know, the myth of black fatherhood.
And it's just like you said, because also, you know what I'm saying, I've been doing a lot of research for this topic. Exactly what you just said. When I went back and I looked at, you know, percentage of black children that had two-parent households, but the parents may not be together, they said it was around 65%. 65%, which is night and day compared to what Dad, you said earlier, was like the 37% of black kids growing up in one-parent households or fatherless homes. So the data is controlled. I'm going to kind of switch gears here. We're going to speed it up a little bit. I want to ask you guys what the biggest challenges for you guys was as a young black father. And Dad, when you answer this, I want you to kind of expand on how that changes with technology, because the technology is night and day compared to when my sister was born, Jasmine, and compared to when Isaiah was born. You know what I'm saying? So just kind of talk about young black challenges that you've experienced as a young black father.
Well, where should I start? It's a big difference between Jasmine and Isaiah, even you and Isaiah, regards to technology. You know, cell phone, when you guys were born, was just really starting to become popular, you know, in the late 90s. You know, social media was not, you know, that popular, if it existed at all. But now with Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook.
Dad, none of your kids have TikTok. I would get on them if they had TikTok.
Huh?
I said none of your kids have TikTok. If any of us had TikTok, I would get on them.
Okay, I'm glad. I didn't even know you guys had a chat. I didn't know that y'all had a chat room. You know, so in some ways I'm out of touch with the technology, but I do know that technology has been very much a part of Isaiah's life, Isaiah's world, as well as your world, for the good. Right. And, you know, Sean as well. But, you know, it's night and day. That's all I can say. Just trying to stay abreast of, you know, what you guys are doing in terms of technology, how you're using it. I can say that, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, you guys are using technology for your benefit, as investment of time. That's how, like, Michaela, you know, is going to VCU. She used technology to do online application and to get to know, you know, they have this parent portal for, you know, parents from VCU, incoming freshmen. Same with Sean as a Kentucky Wesleyan student now. You know, so that didn't exist in the 90s. Stuff like that didn't exist. Yeah. You know, where parents could talk to each other, especially now during this pandemic. There was no pandemic, you know, when you guys were born, not like this. So we could stay abreast in real time with what's going on as it relates to our children.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can monitor Isaiah's, you know, his activities on social media as a father now, where that wasn't an issue in the late 90s through the early 2000s.
Right.
So, you know, there's so many aspects of how technology has impacted our world as parents, you as children. And for me, because I didn't grow up with a lot of technology, it was a huge adjustment to, you know, learn the technology.
Yeah.
Making sure I knew enough to stay abreast of what's going on, you know, with my children's world, with you guys' world. Right. So, you know, I'm sure you guys will have a totally different perspective as young dads, but for me, as Generation X dad, you know, now we played hide and go seek. Yeah. You know, that night we played until the lights came on that night. You know, we weren't stuck in the house all day and night. That you guys can do that. So,
that wasn't even me.
Now, to be honest, we our generation still played it. The next generation, I'm scared for their adolescents, but we still played hide and seek and manhunt.
We played manhunt,
And
basketball, football in the street. Like I'm a true '90s baby. I was born in '93, so you know
you're in the range. You're in the range.
Yeah, so you feel me? Like
even when you talk about the influence of outsiders, you know, as high school, like say these high school students, for example, you know, when I was growing up, my parents encouraged me to play more than one sport.
Right.
So before my love of wrestling came to fruition, I excelled in baseball, and you know, I played basketball, but I was real good in baseball, and I wrestled also. And you know, wrestling came out of the sports that I played. Now it's like you concentrate on one sport. And me as a parent, I'm like, why would you do that?
Why?
That's stupid.
Yeah.
You know, if you could play football and basketball, then do both. And that, you know, that's what Sean did, Jeremiah. Sean played basketball and football. He wanted to play football.
And now he's going. Now he's going to a university on double scholarships.
That's exactly mundo. So there's also that outside influence. Is my point. You know, you got the AAU coaches as a parent. You know, of kids, girls and boys. You know, you have the college coaches, the high school coaches saying, "Well, you should do this." And unless you were actually an athlete when you were in high school, they can easily change your child's mind.
Yeah.
Easily influence them. So I wasn't really tripping on that because I knew my stuff as an athlete and now as a father. I followed the NCAA rules and things like that because you're only a few years older than Sean.
Right.
So the rules aren't that much different.
No.
So, you know, being able to stay in tune with what your child is doing from a technological standpoint, I found is very, very key in being a mentor, guiding them.
Yeah. How about you, Jamani? Challenges as a young black father, and I say young because, like you said, 20. I was 22 when I became a dad.
Honestly, because I grew up in an era of outside summer. You know, summers you had to do book reports to even go outside. Like my parents, they wanted AV honor roll students. So my idea, you know, was to make sure I get the best out of my son, regardless of, you know, what's in front of him, whether it be a tablet or a book.
Right.
You're literally, you know, you're going to know your stuff. Like, knowledge is more powerful than that talent.
Right.
You know, naturally, you can be the best athlete, you know, in your class, but
don't mean nothing.
That don't mean nothing if you don't have book smarts, you know.
Exactly.
So, like, I remember to this day my mama took me off my middle school football team, and I called my grandmother out in California crying like, "Mama, like grandma, she took me off the team. I got 1 C, you know, I got the rest A's and 1 B. That 1 C, she took me off the team." It wasn't until I was older that I understood, like, that C stood out the most because that told her I wasn't giving my best or I wasn't doing what I was supposed to.
Right.
But I can have the 3-4 touchdowns. You feel me? Like all them yards. That don't mean nothing once once you in that class. And then to make matters worse, the football coach was my teacher that I had seen.
Wow.
So
Saw
was
you all the time.
Yeah. So for me to be around him all the time, my mama just wasn't going for that. And my father, you know, him being in the Navy, he real militant, you know. So, well, of course, what mama say, you feel me, don't rock the house. But at the same time, you know, my pops, he was literally big on me and my schooling because at the end of the day, one thing is for certain, that knowledge is power.
Right.
So with my son, I felt like, because over time everything became on the phone or, you know, like on a computer. It won't be too much like hard print, hardback books, you know, and things like that. So I felt like the challenges I really have for real in regards to the technology is keeping up with it. Now, me being a communications major, technology was all I had. Like I can do a lot of stuff, you know, with technology. But with these kids, there's so much stuff going on that they're get like society is giving them access to that they don't even need access to yet. So I guess my challenge is knowing, because I'm always working, but when I do interact with my son, you feel me, when I'm not working, I'm learning him the same way he's learning me.
Right.
So his mannerisms and what he like, the type of stuff he attracts
adjusting
his
to and
attention.
attracting to, yeah.
That really makes me be on my game in regards to like the type of stuff that he's into, because like I said, it's always something like TikTok wasn't even a thing growing up.
Yeah.
Instagram wasn't a thing growing up.
Right.
We had MySpace and different little ways to communicate. So
Yeah.
now with these schools, like it's an app called Blooms that I had for my son's school when he went to Federal Hill Preparatory Academy. Like I was literally chatting with the other parents in my child's class.
Yeah.
That was like your father said, like it was parent teacher conferences
And that was it.
emails, if you got that for real. Like they left notes on the report cards. Like now a teacher can literally email you.
How's he doing right
Yeah,
now?
like right now. Like
What's he? How's his test looking today?
Yes, like everything is so instant and up to date. So it's more so. I feel like an old head saying this, but it's keeping up with what's current.
That's life.
Because I literally can go into the school website and it'll be another app that I have to download and try and understand over under a few minutes due to the fact that this is what the school is requiring for these kids. So that's probably my biggest challenge is just adjusting to the occurring changes with technology for the stuff that they provide for them today.
And I want to add that the technology aspect, I'm piggyback what he's saying, is accessibility.
Yes.
People who have access to our children. So, we know that there are a lot of predators out there who prey, P-R-E-Y, prey on our children.
Right.
And with technology, you can see these chat rooms online and that kind of thing.
Got to monitor it.
They could be in the next room, and the parent is totally oblivious to what's going on. You think your child is doing homework, but they may be chatting with some pervert, And even if there's a firewall, I mean, kids are sophisticated enough technology-wise to work through that firewall.
Right.
And there's parents I talk to, man. It's crazy.
Yeah,
who are saying that they have daughters
not paying
that
enough attention.
Yeah, it's wild. So to me, that's scary. Technology can be used for negative reasons as well. So I'm always on my children's coattail, if you will, to make sure they are not engaging with anyone who they don't know.
Yeah.
So there's no person in Wisconsin that you know. So why are you chatting with this person? No, get off. No. So just being able to monitor. So giving access to people in terms of communicating with your children is way different now. So easily accessible now compared to 27 years ago.
Yeah. And we all are the same mindset. Education is important. And that goes into the pride that we see in our children, not to take anything away from other parents, but what I'm saying, Dad, obviously you've got a league of educated children. Naeem, Jamani, your son, extremely intelligent. My daughter, we take her to do her tests and stuff, and they tell us every time she's in the top percentile. Like Jade been talking in full conversation since she was 1. And that goes into pride, and I want all black fathers to understand that's payoff. That's time and energy that you put. That's not just genetics. Yeah. That's part genetics. You know what I'm saying? Keep yourself educated so that your kids can see you be educated. But at the same time, that's what I'm saying. What you're teaching them, you're guiding them instead of not always discipline. Teaching moments, and you, instead of them making 10 mistakes in a day, they make 5 mistakes in a day. You know what I'm saying? So we're coming to the tail end. I kind of want to wrap this up strongly. So for you guys, just talk a little bit about personal healing. Coming to terms with what's helped you come to terms with how you were as a son, and what you are doing as a father to make sure that the next generation of black women, black men and women are even better than how we are, or even the generation behind us. Because that's, at the end of the day, as fathers, that's all we want our children to do better than us.
Right.
So talk a little bit about that. Obviously, like I said before in my tweets, this doesn't just go for black children, but because of black has been scrutinized so heavily in the last 2-3 generations, this is something, kind of. So talk a little bit about that.
I know with me, I always I look extremely young for my actual age. Like, I cut my facial hair, you feel me? I'm already country, so
right. Just
my mannerism itself, you like, dang, you a father for real? Yeah, like my son, I'm blessed. My son is 4 years old.
Right.
The stereotype of black fathers not being around was something that I took to heart, because one, I witnessed a lot of my female cousins without their children's fathers being around, and that brewed some strong women, because I have a lot of cousins, you feel me, and a lot of them are doing a lot of stuff now because of their parents. So the fact that, I grew up in a 2-family household, that type of structure was different from, what my wife's was.
Right.
So our parenting styles is different, and I don't try to come on too strong, but at the end of the day, I can't expect her. And a lot, we get into these conversations a lot about, it's easy to say a black father isn't needed when one wasn't around.
Right. That's a good point.
So for me to have the structure that I had, whether it be my actual father, a mentor, a coach, a black figurehead, male at that, is very vital in the uprising of a young king, because they want, it's necessary to have something, that bar set for them. So with me, I take pride in, not only being a father to my son, but an active father, because it's a lot of people who can't really say their father was around.
Right.
Now, me being 27, my son being 4, clearly there's an age gap.
Right.
But I still, I kid around with him because he's a child.
Right.
He got pure innocence with him.
Right.
But I show him tough love, because at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff that
he's gonna have to go through.
Yeah, right. Like, a lot of this stuff that he's going to go through. A lot of this stuff I can't necessarily go through it with him. I can tell him, hey, this is how the world works. This is how it is.
Right.
But I cannot dictate when he gets that experience. Yeah. So, just wrapping that up, I really feel like it's my position, and it's to my dying breath, like, everything I do is for my son's future. So just to ensure that he knows no matter where he go in life, no matter what he do, he has a father that supports him through it all. Right. And I'm gonna be there for him, because life is already, it's a lot of chaos going on around you, and it can even be in your house. Right. But at the end of the day, just having that peace of mind and knowing you have structure from, your father, and basically the picture that society paints for, black fathers in general, you can proudly say, hey, that ain't my daddy. Right. That's far from my daddy. So just being able to be an active father in today's society is something that I take pride in, because a lot of people don't have that opportunity. And then the fact that my son is, my first, I'm gonna make mistakes along the way, but I know for a fact I'm doing everything I can to ensure he don't make the same mistakes, and become better than me. Like, it's one thing to want your son to be like you because you accept your flaws, but it's another to want him to be better,
surpass you.
Right, and I'm all for that.
And I'm before you jump in, Dad, I'm gonna talk a little about the other side of the spectrum. Not that I. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in a one-parent household. Yeah. And more than that, like you said, grew up with a lot of women in my family. Yeah. I've got 3 aunts. Put it to you this way: I have 3 aunts, no uncles. I've got 5 or 6 female cousins and only 2 male cousins.
Yeah.
And for me, that was, like you said, a lot of strong black women.
Yeah.
I've got one, you know what I'm saying? My mom she's from the trenches in Chicago, like not like the trenches, but she's from the city. She's from Chicago. She got that Chicago mentality. My other aunt's from Chicago. She went through the Marines, you know what I'm saying? And my other aunt, she from Baltimore. She got the same mentality. And because I'm the first, like, of my generation of cousins to have a kid, and my first kid is a daughter, not only do I have that mentality of I want my child to surpass me, but I want to make sure that I'm teaching her not only how to be a strong black woman like her aunts, grandmother, and you know what I'm saying, and mom, but to also know how to spearhead this world that's ran by men. And you know, we look at the spectrum, we look at white males at the top, you know what I'm saying, white females right under there, white males are there, but white women black males are there, but black women are even underneath of them.
Lower on the totem.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, black women seem like I know black men are scrutinized for their fatherhood, but black women are more scrutinized because most of the men walking around are a product of, you know what I'm saying, motherhood.
Yeah, right.
So to me, having a daughter, that puts an even more emphasis on how I want her to spearhead this world. I got to make sure that I'm strong enough so that she knows what a strong black male for her looks like, and you know what I'm saying, my future children having the same mentality,
right?
And that's kind of you know what I'm saying, the other side is like, yeah, that 2-parent household structure, but it's amazing to see that even a 1-parent household can still have that structure, but on the other side, instead of it being structure, it looks like a challenge.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
Outside looking in, it's gonna look like a challenge, but they don't know you had the support system that you had, and the people you had in your life to help you move to where you was. So I definitely feel that.
Go ahead, Dad.
Well, there's a couple of things that come to mind regarding the question. One is, as a man of faith, you know, I would encourage all the fathers out there to put your faith in God.
Of course, without that's an automatic.
You know, there's no question whether you are a minister or a Christian or whatever. If you are a person of faith, your faith should first and foremost go to your God or whoever it is that you worship on your worship day. Because oftentimes we get caught up in this minutia called man. We start serving man and what they say. And when you do that, we make the mistake of subjecting ourselves to that train of thought when internally, spiritually, we know that we should do things in a different way, especially when it comes to our children. The Bible talks about leaving an inheritance to your children's children. And you gentlemen succinctly talked about leaving something for your children. You should also leave something to your grandchildren. I love Jade. She's only 2.5. But for me, I'm all about looking out for her future. I'm supporting you and Jessica. Where's she going to go to college? You know, where's she going to go to high school? Where's she going to go to preschool and kindergarten? What are her habits? Is she training right now for the Olympics? I know she do. But going, you know, does she know what, you know, she knows what numbers are. She knows colors, but let's put it together. You know, let's teach her about math. Let's teach her about bonds and stocks and derivatives and mutual funds. You know, let's teach her about all those type of, you know, tools, if you will, that's going to empower her so that even though they don't teach finance in school, she will already say, oh, well, I got that covered. My dad taught me. My granddad taught me because that's what they do. So, you know, don't believe the hype. That's the other thing I would say. Don't believe the media. Don't believe all the statistics because, as you pointed out, statistics are subjective. You know, it's by those who create them. And so when you lean towards those questions, are there more black men in prison than there are in college? You have one side of the spectrum said there are, other side said they aren't. Do your own research. And the bottom line is, you know, as long as you aren't in jail.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Your children, all right? Then that's going to improve your child or children's opportunity to have a successful life.
You're part of the cure.
Yeah, be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Exactly.
So teaching our children essential skills, like I mentioned, financial education,
critical thinking, public speaking. Yeah,
you are judged by the way you speak, not just look. Have you ever seen a good-looking person that can keep somebody, even though they stutter,
and they say words out of content. You can do good as you want, but if you can't speak, at least in a professional setting,
You're
you
not
won't
going
get a job.
Yep.
So, teach these essential skills, leading by example. African Americans spent over $1 trillion in products, in goods in 2019. 1.4 to be specific.
Wow.
Most of that, 85% of the spending came from hair and beauty products.
Wow.
So if we are teaching our children not to go to the beauty supply shop and perhaps invest in one, then we're teaching them how to become self-sufficient, to become business owners, not just consumers.
Right.
So nothing against other ethnicities, but you go into a black community, you see Asians running beauty supply shops. Nothing wrong with it, but why can't African Americans do it if you see other ethnicities doing it in your community?
Spearheading businesses.
As an African American man, as a father, we need to teach our children entrepreneurship skills.
Right.
Not just be consumers, but be investors as well.
Right.
So when we think about that, it leads me to talk about your testimony. I fought bitterly hard to have a relationship with you and Jasmine, even during the time of separation.
Right.
And so it was a fight to go to court. It was a fight to fight for my rights. It was a fight to spend full time with you and Jasmine. It was a fight to make sure that you had, whatever needs you needed. I mean, it was you were more than just a child support payment.
And
you were somebody that was my child.
Right.
So,
and I want to emphasize that when I say I grew up in a one-parent household, by no means does that mean that I was in a fatherless home. That just means that the relationship between mom and dad can change the perception for your children.
Exactly.
That's what I was not throwing you under the bus, but the relationship between mom and dad has a huge impact
on your child.
That's
on your child. No question.
My father, you were very involved in my life growing up. Public speaking classes, teaching me essentials, everything. You know you was involved. So I want to emphasize that before you.
Oh yeah. I understand. I appreciate you saying that, but it's all about co-parenting at the end of the day.
100%.
Yeah, it's all about co-parenting and having both parents involved. A child can be successful even if they live in a home where they're raised, every day by their dad or their mom.
Exactly.
But, you have a better chance, a higher increase with both parents involved.
Right.
And when you have that, then it creates synergy. So, you got the best of both worlds. You marching with Black Lives Matter, you speaking out, you having this podcast. I would venture to guess that has something to do with your parents empowering you to speak out about something you're passionate about. I was passionate about fathers' rights because I lived through it, and because I see other fathers who lived through it, and maybe they didn't act appropriately, in terms of how to handle that separation. So, being out there and empowering our brothers out there to say, hey, man, you're more than a child support case. You're not just a visitor. Fathers are parents too. So, as long as you keep that focus in mind, you're all good. And then that leads me to talk about people, who may have, gone through the wilderness experience and had made it out and reconnected with their children, or just maintain a relationship with their children. They say, well, how did you do it? I want to drink from your cup. And I always say, don't ask to drink from my cup if you don't know the contents within the cup. You don't know what I went through in order to establish a relationship with my children, even though they were not living with me every day.
Right.
So, testimonies are really good. Tell people about your experiences as a father, just like you're doing in this podcast. So it's a regular thing, not just a once a month or once a year conversation, but instilling that knowledge in other fathers. And that's what I do through Eternal Light. That's what I do through Fathers' Rights Initiative. That's what I do in a national spectrum when I'm talking to other father groups, fatherhood groups. And I say, man, I know your pain. I feel your pain. But if you just stick to what you know, if you just continue to fight for a relationship to see your child or to have a relationship with your children, then eventually that will come to fruition.
Right.
And so as long as you are practicing what you preach and not just doing stupid stuff like posting 6-year-old pictures of your children when you haven't seen them in 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So lead for example. Try to see your children once in a while, whether you live in state, around the corner, or out of the another state, another country.
Right.
Try to maintain a relationship with your children, even
Right.
if you can't see them physically. There's something called Zoom.
Right.
You can do more than just a video chat. You can use the resources out there. So,
Yeah.
For me, those are some things that I will offer. Being that I've been a father for nearly 30 years, I've learned a lot of lessons in life, and I'm just proud of you guys and what you're accomplishing of this podcast. And I just hope that this message will continue. This conversation will continue.
Yeah.
And we won't have it because of racial inequality has reared its ugly head.
Right.
Our lives are dependent on several things. Our children relies on us. Our society relies on us because the fathers are the head of the household.
Right.
Right.
Fathers are the leader we are the head of our community. So that doesn't mean that a woman doesn't matter. That just means you debunk the myth that fathers don't matter.
Right.
And so you let your actions speak louder than words. So there's so many other things that can be offered. But to me, those are foundations to success from a systemic standpoint that will debunk the false narrative about dads and empower us overall. And, I'm just happy to be part of this podcast and talk to you two young brothers.
Now, I think we've had a great conversation. I'm gonna ask you guys just, Dad, you kind of just did exactly what I was gonna say. Let's go ahead and just end it on like a little bit of advice. Dad, you're coming from a different mindset. You're coming from someone that has gone through some of the struggles of fighting to see your kids, gone through the experience of maintaining a relationship despite multiple different scenarios, that may have made it difficult. And even now, you can I can commend you because you have love. You've got a beautiful wife. You've got 3 beautiful daughters in that home that are all going through college. And despite all of your experience through the years, you're still doing exactly what a father should be doing, which is staying in the house, upholding a beautiful woman and raising beautiful children in a strong black home. For me, for you, just to conclude, for you fathers out there that are listening, I'm a new father. My daughter's only 2.5 years old, and I've been with her mother for 7 years. Stay consistent. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Be consistent. Black fathers are can be the head of the household and be the leadership in that household, but so can the moms. And it's your duty to, if you're the flesh and the blood, she's the bones and the backbone, and that's what's most important. I think these days, because of the way the communication between parents usually goes, it makes it seem like it's a men and woman thing. No, it's not a men, and woman thing. It's a men and woman thing. It's a team. It's a 2-parent synergy, like you said earlier, Dad. Whether you're with the mom or not, whether you live in the same household or not, whether you guys are on both east and west coast, you're still a father. Does not matter how far or stop. You just be consistent and maintain that mindset that no matter what happens in the world, nothing can penetrate the love and your duty as a father.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Now, how about for you, Jamani?
I definitely agree with you, consistency, but I feel like the most important of being a father is the investment in your child.
Yep, 100%.
You can say you want all of this for your child, but what are you gonna do?
Right. Don't matter if you're not putting that work in.
A lot of people who go through the trenches for battling, for custody to be in their child's life or just being around, period. Like I said, my wife has a different parenting style compared to mine.
Right.
And
that's important.
That's important. There's a lot of pros and cons with that.
Yep.
And to people listening, especially young black fathers out there listening, dealing with that specific situation, no matter at no matter how the situation is, at the end of the day, it's all for that child.
All about the kid,
So
no matter how the relationship goes.
The gray area at the end of the day is that baby. So at the end of the day, just make sure the effort that you put in regards to investing in yourself and moving, doing what you can to move your child forward, invest that time double, into your kid, so they can feel, that love from you, because your absence is not something that they'll get used to and actually like it.
It's not warranted.
It's not warranted at all, but overall, like, over time, they'll appreciate it because they'll see the sacrifice you actually put yourself through to get them, further down the road. So, to all, all the young fathers out there, just keep doing everything you can to be in your child's life, especially, with the times, the troubling times that we got now between fighting with the courts and just fighting everything that the world throws at us to be fathers. Like, just keep your head straight. James 2:20, faith without works is dead. So just keep faith, spearheading with everything that you're doing. Everything else is gonna work itself out. But that child, once your child knows, you feel me, and feel that love, there ain't nothing that can break that bond but your actions. So make sure them actions, actually pan out to what you want for that child's future.
All right, Dad.
And I want to just add to him because he said that key word, faith. Sometimes that faith can be small as a mustard seed, but the Bible says with the size of the mustard seed, you can move many mountains. Those mountains are the courtroom. Sometimes the mountains are the mom. Not in terms of her disappearing, but softening her heart to recognize the fact that the father is important as well as important, instrumental in that child's life as she is.
Right.
So, and you mentioned, my wonderful wife Monique. I tell you, Jeremiah, I met Monique, when I lived here in the DC area in the early '90s, and we connected when I moved here several years ago. But I felt that God rewarded me for everything I've been through because I had faith.
Right.
I didn't listen to the false narrative. I didn't listen to, oh, your dad's no good, or your dad doesn't want to see you, or I'm going to continue to keep custody with the mom, or all that negative stuff.
Right.
As hard as it was, I encourage you young brothers that if you've gone through that situation, or if you're going through it right now, just keep your faith. Just hold on, because your reward in that investment of time and being patient, it will pay dividends. I guarantee it. If you fight the court and don't fight the ex, all right, then you will come out on top. You will definitely have a relationship with your child or children. But if you are in the same house as your child or your children, and you're a young father, or even an older father, invest that time in your children, because they're watching you every day. If you put them in front of the TV and say, play the video games, and you aren't spending time with them, they remember that.
Right.
So we have to break apart that slavery mindset in terms of video games, because that is what institutionalizes us and prevents us from spending quality time with our children and empower them to be better than who we are when we are fathers and when they become fathers.
Right.
So keep your faith, stay focused on your children. Not to mean you don't have a life, but if you're gonna work out, they get old enough, work out with them. If you're working on something, show them what you're doing. Show them how to balance a checkbook. Talk them about a situation that will help them down the road. Even if it's girl talk, if it's a boy, they talk about girls. If it's girl, they talk about boys. Be available for them so they can talk to you instead of somebody outside the home, a stranger. So always, young brothers, keep that in mind, that your child or your children are watching you, even if they don't live with you. Always keep your focus on your children, and always take care of yourself, because there may be a day when you might receive a call to say, hey, I've done all I could. Can you take care of them now? Can you bring it home? So you want to be ready. You want to have your own place.
Right.
You want to have your own, your own income. You don't want to be living in the basement of your mama home. You want to have your own place.
Right.
You want to be ready, because there may be a just-in-case situation. I'm a living testimony of that. So just be patient. And so my reward has been my faith in God and not man, not believing the hype. And I got, I'm part of a blended family, not ashamed of it. And they're all doing well because I'm active in my biological children's life, as well as my stepchildren. But you know what? They are my children.
Yep.
And I love them the same.
And, you know, blended family or not, I mean, you see, I have a fantastic relationship with my sisters. I mean, stepsisters or not, they still my sisters. And that's
Absolutely.
from a result of a strong father that institutes those values between families.
Absolutely.
Now, guys, we can talk about this all day, obviously. You know, I told you guys this was going to be like a 35-minute conversation. We're going on an hour 15. Obviously, we can talk about it all day, but
Yes.
we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We touched on so many great points, and I'm so excited for everybody to listen and learn from this, especially the black fathers that might come across this and be like, all right, what these old heads talking about? But then they listen and
Hey,
they're
Jeremiah,
like, yeah,
before
what's
you
up?
close, could I just put one more thing out there? Just one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would encourage fathers out there to join a network of fathers who may have challenges with, you know, raising their children emotionally or mentally or, you know, psychologically or whatever. If it's a Father's Right initiative, you know, in your area, join them. You don't necessarily have to be separated from your significant other to be part of the organization, but when you're part of a network and you're sharing the same story, you realize that you aren't the only one out there with the struggles or the accomplishments.
Right.
So become part of a network out there. And that's what bonds us together. That's what bonds us, brotherhood and fathers, by joining things like that. And you'd be amazed, man. You wind up becoming a mentor yourself just because you've been through the trenches and you have a testimony yourself. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And that's 100%. I appreciate that. At no point should a father ever feel lost in their fatherhood.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's the worst.
That's the worst
You
feeling.
should never feel disconnected from your children as a father. It defeats the whole purpose. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming on to the first episode of the Jem Arrow Podcast. This has been fantastic. It's been an experience. We've been learning. I'm hoping that people listening to it learn just as much as we've been learning talking to each other.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Man.
Of course. All right, guys. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you for coming to the first episode of the Jem Arrow Podcast. And catch the future episodes whenever they come.
All right.